Hello, welcome to Zoonosis with Joy. My name is Joy, and today we're going to be talking about rabies and the efforts to eradicate the virus, as well as efforts that may undermine this. I hope you enjoy this video, and leave a comment in the comment section below with any thoughts or questions or criticisms after the video. So, what is rabies? Rabies is a virus that is spread between animals through the saliva. It's often in the wild carried by bats, raccoons, skunks, fox, but it often spreads to dogs and cats, which can then spread it to people. Typically, it causes a encephalitis, which basically means a swelling of the brain. The saliva that contains the virus will spread through the nervous system up the spinal cord towards the brain, and this often causes neurological signs and behavior changes. Typically, it goes through a series of phases, although not in every case. Phase 1 is called the prodromal phase, which is behavior-related changes. Often animals that are fearful and aggressive before become more friendly, and friendly animals become more fearful and aggressive. Phase 2 is the furious phase. As you can imagine, this is where we typically see the classic symptoms of rabies. They are often highly aggressive, will try to bite anything that moves, and they often are frothing or hypersalivating. This is due to paralysis of the pharyngeal muscles, the throat muscles, that make it impossible for them to drink or swallow things. And this is where we get the idea of hydrophobia from. That's the old school term for rabies, is because these animals weren't able to swallow their own saliva. This saliva then can then expose other individuals to the rabies virus and spreading it further. There is also often a paralytic phase. This is, as you can imagine, typified by paralysis. So they get muscle paralysis, often a drooping jaw is the biggest thing that you can note there. And it can also cause respiratory failure due to paralysis of the diaphragmatic muscles and the intercostal muscles. Although typically death is caused by encephalitis, so the brain swells against the skull, and that can lead to blood loss to the brain and death, basically. So in most cases where there's clinical signs, there is virtually 100% fatality rate, which makes it the highest case fatality rate for any virus, really. This is a big problem in many parts of the world still. Now, there are many countries where there is endemic canine rabies. In these countries, 99% of human rabies cases occur, and it leads to the death of over 59,000 people per year, at an economic cost of $8.6 billion USD in 2015. So billions of dollars, thousands of people dead. It's very strongly linked to dog rabies, not to bats, not to skunks, not to foxes, but to dogs. There is a very simple way that we could greatly reduce or eliminate human rabies and greatly reduce or eliminate dog rabies, and that is through vaccination. So this is typically done as a puppy. So puppies are vaccinated with rabies, but maintaining the boosters throughout their life can help protect them further by maintaining their levels of antibodies in their body. This also applies to cats, and you think, well, indoor cats don't need to have rabies vaccine. You're wrong. Cats that live inside will fight bats. They will try to attack them, and bats can be a host of rabies. So if your cat attacks a bat, contracts rabies, you can spread it to you and your family, and can be fatal if you acquire that virus. So keeping your cat vaccinated, even if they stay inside, is still a mandatory requirement in many parts of the world. In fact, it's something I would highly encourage you to do. Now, in the Western world, we have eliminated dog rabies. Hooray for us. But there are other parts of the world that still have it. In that cases, there's a cost and economic problem with trying to vaccinate all these dogs. It can be expensive. There's also institutional struggles, and the countries that are often have endemic canine rabies are ones that were victims of colonialism. They are part of the developing world. There can be efforts, and there are international efforts to basically mass vaccinate dogs with rabies vaccine to help eliminate these rates. It is very good for the global economy to eliminate rabies because you see, we're saving billions of dollars a year in medical costs associated with that. In the Western world, we have eliminated rabies. We haven't eliminated stupidity. We still have many people who don't vaccinate their dogs out of fears that the vaccines will harm their dogs. In fact, over 53% of owners have expressed some fear that vaccines are unnecessary, unsafe, or ineffective, basically. And these beliefs are strongly correlated with the anti-vaxx movement. In fact, they did a study of US veterinarians and Canadian veterinarians that found that towns that have a strong anti-vaccine movement are also more strongly correlated with reduced vaccine rates in animals, as well as reduced vaccine compliance as well. This has caused a decrease in the number of people vaccinating their dogs for rabies. Now, we need at least 50% of dogs to be vaccinated for rabies for there to be no canine rabies transmitting in the population. Now, this sounds like a relatively achievable number, and it is. The biggest risk factor is that dogs reproduce quickly. As you can imagine, they have lots of puppies. Same thing is true for cats. So vaccinating all these dogs and puppies, and kittens, this is the major challenge. And if people aren't getting their puppies or kittens vaccinated, then we could get breakthroughs of our immunity or herd immunity for rabies in our dog population, which puts humans at risk. What can you do about it? What can we do about it? If you live in the Western world, the biggest thing you can do is keep your dog and cat vaccinated with rabies and booster your vaccines when it's due, basically. This will help maintain their antibody load and prevent them from getting infected with rabies and passing it on to you and your family. If you have friends who don't keep their animals vaccinated or family, pressure them into doing it. This is a good opportunity to use those social forces for good, to actually, use your clout networks to encourage people to vaccinate their pets. This is something where you can donate to international charities that work in other parts of the world that help vaccinate their animals as well. This is something that we could try. There are many international efforts as well trying to vaccinate wildlife through oral vaccines. And this is something that can also help reduce or minimize the occurrence of canine rabies. So this is something that is evidently achievable, and we could even eliminate canine rabies entirely within our own lifetimes. The choice is ours, really. We can either decide to let rabies run rampant and harm our friends and family, or we can vaccinate our pets for them. It's really that simple. So if you have any thoughts about that, leave it in the comment section below, and I will see you next time. Peace.